Welcome to LOP training, and in today's meeting we're going to discuss the processing tab. And so again, if you're in a contact record, what you're going to be able to do is, if you're in the fields tab over here, you can right click anywhere in here and you'll have a view of all the custom tabs that we have ready for you. One of the custom tabs that some of us use pretty much throughout the day is the processing tab. And the processing tab was initially the first tab that we ever used. That was a combination of the LO application tab and the PQ tab, LOPQ tab. So as you look at this, it's kind of a busy screen, and we didn't really want it to, it wasn't initially designed this way, but what we did is, as you look at this, the left-hand side of the screen is all geared for loan officer items, as it says here up top. The middle part is geared for processor items. And then the far right-hand side over here is just geared for general things such as different statuses for PQ Gold statuses or inactive or credit restoration, and then some general loan information, okay? So as we look at this, you've got some fields in here that are the same as what's in the LOPQ and the LO application tab, but you're going to notice that some of these fields, like PQ Gold field, application received, appraised value, loan approved, and closing instructions out, you're going to notice that these fields over here are green, okay? Now these green fields are going to trigger messages and other processes to run, and I think it's really important to know this because this is what's going to drive a lot of the follow-up that happens throughout the loan process. So for example, if you pre-qualified a customer and as a loan officer you believe they're good enough to go and do something, you should have a date in here as the PQ Gold field, okay? Now this PQ Gold field is the same field that is in the pre-qual 4 screen, where it's this field right here, and it's the same field that's in the LO PQ screen, which is right here, okay? So just going back to the processing screen now, if I were to put a date in here, this is going to drive the pre-qualification process. Let me do this. I need to get out of this before I mess up somebody's record. Okay. So if we had a date in here, let me take out the application date. All right. So if I had a date in here as the PQ Gold and a process were to run, oh, that's not even right because I think I have a date in here in the pre-approval field. Okay. You can see up here in the loan status that it turned to a PQ Gold status, okay? So as you put a date in here, this PQ Gold status is now running, and the PQ Gold follow-up emails are going to start going out, okay? Now, as we move down here, and the real goal of this call today is kind of talk about what happens in the loan application process, okay? So the first thing that's going to happen, we kind of discussed this the other day too in the LO application screen, is you have an application date. Well, if I were to put a date in here, one of the processes, again, that's going to run is the application follow-up process. What this process does is every 4 days until you have an application receive date in here, okay, for the next 12 days. So there's 3 messages that go out. If you don't have an application receive date in here, it's now going to switch this to a withdrawn status, okay? To show you what this process looks like, I'm going to go in the automated processes module. And this is all the stuff that we've designed over the last 10 years. And here's the process. So as you look at this, it sends out a series of 1, 2, 3 messages. Then it's going to let you know as a loan officer that nothing's been received in the last 12 days. And then it's going to update the status to a withdrawn status in the system, okay? It's not withdrawing the file and any of the stuff with Encompass or anything, but it's just following up the status on this contact record in the LOP system, okay? All right. So going back to this, let's say that we have an app date in here and we did the application via phone and in person. They came in. Let's say we received the application today and we received it in person. Let me do this. I'm changing the fax and emails because we sent out some notices last week to these people on this file that I had, which is not a good thing. All right, so as we're back in the processing tab, now as I run the application receive, as a date goes in here, what's going to happen is throughout the day, the automated processes get executed, okay? And based on the automated processes getting executed and the application receive date going in, what's going to happen is if I go to execute processes, it's going to start sending out some notices to some of the people involved in this process, okay? With the application receive date being in here, okay? We should get some of those notices here in a minute, but it's going to be driven by some of the information we already had in there. Now, as you go down this list, and really the goal of this screen is, one snapshot, you'll get a total feel for what's happening on the loan and where things are at. Because you can look in here and see when the application date is, when you receive the application. Maybe as a loan officer, did you do an introduction call to everyone? You may want to put that in here. Did you send out any condo questionnaire documents? If it's a purchase contract, the terms of the contract. You know, when does the financing contingency end? What's the sales price? How much earnest money? Seller paid closing cost. How much did you tell the client they need for closing, okay? We've got the LO checklist for processing. You know, are these things included in the file that you're sending in to processing and setup, okay? You know, what date did you send this file to setup? And was title and appraisal ordered, okay? All right. Really, if you're a loan officer, you should be filling out this stuff, which this stuff is really the same thing as what's in the LO application screen, except for I put in a couple reminders here. Did you complete the contacts tab? And did you complete the appraisal title tab, okay? So basically, the left-hand side of the processing tab is the same thing, basically, as the LO application screen, all right? Now, where this screen becomes important is, let's say you're out of the office, or you're working out of the house, or you're not able to talk to your processor, which you should be doing your pipeline meetings on a weekly basis. You can see the status of the file in processing. You know, has title been received? Appraisal been received? What's the value? Has the file been submitted? Is it approved yet? Is it approved PTC? If it's approved part of closing conditions, what are those conditions that are going to be in here, okay? Is it clear to close? Have the instructions gone out? Have you made your pre-closing calls? This is something that you'll do as a loan officer, the pre-closing calls. You know, when's the closing date? When's the closing time? Who's the closing attorney again? So you're going to see that on this side, under the processor items, you're going to get to know a status of where the file is rather than calling your processor and saying, hey, what's going on in this file? You know, if you're doing your pipeline meetings on a weekly basis and you're checking this, you should know exactly what's going on with your file at all times, okay? So you shouldn't be needing to contact your processor for the status calls sometimes that you get throughout the week, okay? So just kind of a general overview of the processing items. Now, over here to the right, you've got some different statuses, and some of these, like the PQ Gold status, the PQ Gold 90, the PQ Gold 180 Plus, these are just showing you the aging of a client that's ready to buy that isn't buying it either the first 90 days, the second 90 days, or you know, going out almost a year on the PQ Gold 180. It's just showing you the aging of your clients as they're ready to buy. For example, if this guy called and said, hey, you know, I don't want to get your marketing anymore or something like that, I might put him as a no response removed and put a date in here, okay? And then I might also go up here to marketing type and put do not contact. Inactive, you know, we might consider somebody inactive, and then I might put a reason why. There's a bunch of reasons here why, for whatever reason. If you have a credit restoration client, this is something we're going to cover in its own session by itself, but if you have a credit restoration client, you could put a date in here. You can choose the credit restoration company. Right now we currently work with 2 of them. And that's pretty much it. And then if you get a message back from the credit restoration people that they signed up, you would put the sign up date here because now you know that they're in process and working on their credit. If a file is getting withdrawn from you for whatever reason, you can put a data here and put a Y. And again, this is so you can track on your business all the files maybe that you lost throughout the year and what were the reasons why you're losing the files. Okay. And then you have some basic loan information over here. You got your mortgage amounts, your interest rates, when the lock's expiring, loan numbers, things like that on the first and second mortgage. This stuff down here, like First Connect, these are all old fields that I haven't really deleted. And I'll probably get those cleaned up and deleted here before too long. I just want to make sure we weren't missing anything while we made some changes in the database. So, you know, looking at this screen, it's kind of busy, and I get that. You know, not really happy with the way this looks, but once you understand the flow of this, the left-hand side is for the loan officer items. The middle is for the processor items, which we want the loan officer to have access to so they can view. And then this third somewhat column over here is just for the general loan status stuff up top and general loan information down here below with loan amounts and things like that. I know I've gone through this kind of quickly. The easiest way you're going to learn this screen is just by using it and kind of looking at this. As you follow the flow of the different fields here, you're going to see that the flow kind of follows what typically is done on a file from start to finish. You have your loan officer items initially, you have your processor items and closing items, and then funding items. Any questions on this?
No, it looks good.
Okay. You know, in the new system that we're designing, it's going to flow and look a little bit simpler, but we've really tried to take the busyness out of this, but it's kind of impossible with the number of fields that come into play with processing a file. So with that, we'll go ahead and stop this session. Thank you.